What if I told you there's a vibrational frequency that governs all of reality, and that Nikola Tesla not only discovered it, but used it to create his inventions out of thin air? This isn't about a conspiracy theory. It's about a universal principle that was taught thousands of years ago by the Egyptian sage Thoth, and that modern science is only just beginning to understand. The principle that everything is energy, and consciousness is the key to tuning into it. Tesla knew that reality responds to our vibration. He knew how to manipulate this energy to bring his ideas into existence. But the deepest secret he discovered wasn't in a machine. It was within him, and it's within you too. If this video found you, it's because you already feel there's something more, a dormant power, a capacity to create the life you desire. Stay with me until the end, because I'm not just going to tell you the story. I'm going to show you, step by step, how Tesla used this frequency and how you can start applying it to your life today to unlock your true potential. If you're ready to awaken this power, comment, "The frequency is within me." Imagine the scene. A simple hotel room, number 3327. The air is still, heavy with the silence that follows an extraordinary life. Nikola Tesla, the man who dreamed of a world of free energy, is dead. But before the news spreads, before the world can mourn the loss of a genius, men in dark suits arrive. They're not there to pay respects. They're government agents, acting with a cold and calculated urgency. They're not looking for a will, but for the secrets held in the brightest mind of the century. Box after box of notes, diagrams, and projects are confiscated, sealed, and taken to an unknown destination, far from public eyes. Within this sea of paper, among sketches of energy towers and ray weapons, they find something that leaves them stunned. A notebook unlike anything they've ever seen. Its cover isn't made of common leather, and it's sealed by a strange metallic clasp with no visible lock. But what grabs the most attention is the ink used on its pages, a deep violet hue that seems to pulse with a light of its own, almost alive. When they open it, the agents don't find the physics they expected. They encounter a science that borders on magic, a language that military intelligence can't decode. The pages are filled with diagrams of waves that don't describe electric currents, but human emotions. There are drawings that map sadness, joy, fear, as if they were measurable frequencies. There are notes about water's ability to retain memory, to store vibrational information, an idea that modern science is barely starting to scratch. And all throughout, there are strange symbols belonging to no known alphabet. They aren't mathematical equations, but they seem to be instructions, a kind of manual for reality itself, written in a language only the soul could understand. A specialist in ancient texts, secretly called in to analyze the find, feels a chill down his spine. The symbols are eerily familiar. He recognizes them from fragments of forbidden texts, from papyri that few have dared to study. They echo the sacred hieroglyphs attributed to Thoth, the scribe of the Egyptian gods, the master of knowledge who, according to legend, wrote the emerald tablets. In these millennia-old texts, Thoth claims that everything in the universe is vibration, and that whoever masters the science of vibrations can command matter, time, and space. Tesla's notebook wasn't just a record of experiments. It was an attempt to translate this ancient wisdom into the language of science. Tesla wasn't just building machines. He was trying to decode creation itself. He understood that reality isn't solid, but a symphony of frequencies. Every thought, every object, every living being vibrates at a specific note. And if you could find the right frequency, you could heal, create, manifest. You could literally rewrite the world around you. The violet notebook was his map, his Rosetta Stone to decipher the language of God. It was proof that science and spirituality aren't opposites, but two sides of the same coin, two keys to the same secret. But the most shocking discovery was yet to come. A graphologist, analyzing the notes under a microscope, notices something that defies logic. The pen pressure, the slant of the letters, the energy imprinted on the paper. On certain pages, the handwriting subtly changes. It's not Tesla's hand. It's as if someone else, at another time, had added notes, corrected diagrams, left clues. It wasn't a collaboration, it was a dialogue through time. A second energetic signature was there, imprinted in the fibers of the paper, a silent and incredibly ancient presence. Who else could have access to this knowledge? Who else could communicate with Tesla on such a deep level, using a language that transcends science and history? The answer wasn't in any official record, in any history book. The answer was in the very energy of those pages, an echo of a mind that existed millennia before Tesla was even born. The notebook wasn't just Tesla's. He was the heir of a knowledge that had been passed from initiate to initiate, and that discovery changed everything. To understand what this knowledge was and where it came from, we can't stay in the hotel room. We need to travel back in time, to a dark and lonely night in the mountains of Colorado. This other mind, this ancient presence in Tesla's notebook, didn't communicate with him through words, but through the earth itself. To understand how, we need to go back to the year 1899. Imagine Nikola Tesla, a man ahead of his time, voluntarily exiling himself to the top of the Colorado Springs Mountains. He distances himself from everything and everyone, seeking an electric silence that cities could no longer offer. There, under a clear, starry sky, he builds his most audacious laboratory. A wooden structure that looks more like an arcane temple, crowned by a giant tower pointing to the sky like a finger defying the gods. Tesla's official purpose was to study lightning, to tame the fury of the heavens. For that, he creates a device he calls a telluric receiver, which is nothing more than a long metal rod driven deep into the ground, connected to an extremely sensitive radio device. He wanted to hear storms forming miles away. But on a cloudless night, with a perfectly clear sky, his equipment comes to life. It's not the crackling sound of static, nor the hiss of a distant radio signal. It's something completely different, something never recorded before. The sound coming through Tesla's headphones is a pulse, a rhythmic, constant, organized pulse. It's a low, deep sound, almost inaudible, resembling the heartbeat of a giant. Then, he perceives another layer, a soft, rhythmic murmur, like slow, deep breathing. He checks his equipment, thinking it's interference, but there's nothing. The signal is coming from the earth. In that moment, the truth strikes him like lightning. The planet isn't an inert sphere of rock and metal floating in space. The planet is alive. In his diary, he writes with near feverish excitement, "The earth lives, breathes, and communicates." He realizes that the planet has its own energy field, a vital pulse that sustains all life on its surface. This discovery, revolutionary for science at the time, was fundamental knowledge in the ancient mystery schools. In Hermetic texts, this planetary energy is called the anima mundi, the soul of the world. The priests of ancient Egypt believed that, in deep meditative states, it was possible to silence the mind and hear the whispers of Gaia, the voice of the planet, and through it, understand the rhythms of the cosmos. Tesla, a scientist, had just empirically proven what mystics had intuitively known for millennia. He wasn't just measuring electromagnetic waves, he was listening to the pulse of a living, planetary consciousness. He understood that this pulse was the base frequency of all life on Earth, the fundamental note upon which the entire symphony of existence was composed. And if he could understand and replicate that frequency, he could create technologies that worked in harmony with nature, not against it. But as he kept listening, night after night, he noticed something even stranger. Overlaid on the calm, rhythmic breathing of the planet, there was another signal. A higher frequency, intermittent, almost like an intelligent transmission. It wasn't chaotic like static, but had structure, a mathematical cadence. It was a repeating pattern, a coded message that seemed to be using the Earth's own pulse as a carrier wave. It was an echo that didn't seem to belong to this world, or at least, not to this time. That mysterious echo, that coded message Tesla picked up from deep within the Earth, wasn't made of words, but of patterns. And those patterns led Tesla to an obsession that would define the rest of his life: the numbers 3, 6, and 9. He started seeing this sequence everywhere, not just in his calculations, but in the very structure of nature. He realized that cell division followed this rhythm, that crystal formations obeyed this geometry, that planetary orbits seemed to dance to the tune of this sacred math. To Tesla, this wasn't coincidence. It was the signature of the Creator, the language the universe used to communicate. He didn't keep this discovery locked away in his lab. He brought it into his life in a way many considered eccentric, even crazy. He started walking around the block 3 times before entering a building. At restaurants, he used exactly 18 napkins, a multiple of 3, 6, and 9, to polish his utensils and plates until they shone. He only stayed in hotel rooms whose numbers were divisible by 3. To the outside world, these were the quirks of an eccentric genius. But to Tesla, it was a ritual. It was a way to tune his own energy field, his own vibration, to the fundamental frequency of the universe he had discovered. What Tesla was actually doing was testing an ancient principle he had rediscovered. This wasn't a new idea. In the mysteries of Thoth and the Hermetic schools, the numbers 3, 6, and 9 were considered the pillars of creation. The number 3 represented the principle of creation, the divine trinity present in so many cultures. The number 6 symbolized balance, the harmony of matter, the perfect structure of the physical world. And the number 9 was the number of completion, enlightenment, the return to the divine source, the end of one cycle and the beginning of another. Together, they weren't just numbers, they were vibrational keys. The ancient Egyptian priests and the masters of alchemy knew this. They used these numbers in their chants, in the architecture of their temples, in the cadence of their rituals. They believed that by using this sacred numerical sequence, they could create a portal between the physical world and the spiritual realms. They could align their intention with the will of the cosmos, manifesting changes in the material world. Tesla, with his scientific mind, wasn't being superstitious. He was validating, through observation and practice, a knowledge that had been kept secret for millennia, and the ultimate proof came in his lab. He began applying the 3, 6, and 9 sequence not just in his life, but in his energy experiments. He pulsed electric currents at intervals based on these numbers. He created electromagnetic fields that oscillated in harmonics of 3, 6, and 9. And that's when the impossible happened. His instruments, disconnected from any power source, began to vibrate in sync. The lamps in the lab, unplugged from any outlet, began to flicker in perfect rhythm, responding to the field he had created. He wasn't just observing the universe anymore. He was starting to converse with it. He realized that by using these numerical keys, he could create a resonance field, a tuning so perfect that the energy in the environment would begin to organize itself according to his will. He wasn't generating energy from nothing. He was inviting the energy already around him to dance to his music. He had found a way to interact directly with the fabric of reality, to tune it like an instrument. From the moment he made the lights dance in his lab, Tesla dove headfirst into the study of frequencies. He realized that if 3, 6, and 9 were the structure, frequencies were the energy that flowed through that structure. He began experimenting with sound waves, building generators that could produce a vast range of tones, from the lowest, inaudible rumbles, to the highest pitches. He wanted to understand how these invisible vibrations interacted with the visible world, and more importantly, with the human body. He became his own test subject, exposing himself to different frequencies for hours on end. He quickly discovered that not all frequencies were beneficial. Some vibrations caused an immediate sense of discomfort, an inexplicable anxiety that seemed to come out of nowhere. Other frequencies caused headaches, nausea, and a sense of mental chaos. It was as if these vibrations were out of tune with the body's natural frequency, creating an energetic conflict that manifested as physical and emotional distress. He was mapping a vibrational minefield, discovering which sounds could destabilize a living system. But amid those experiments, he found a frequency that stood out from all the rest. A specific frequency, 528 Hz. When he activated the generator on this tone, something changed. The atmosphere in the lab seemed to calm. His chronic migraines, which had plagued him for years, began to ease and then completely disappeared while the frequency was active. He noticed that the plants in his lab, exposed to the same vibration, grew faster, stronger, greener. He felt mental clarity and a deep sense of peace, an internal harmony he rarely experienced. He called it the frequency of the harmony of life. What he didn't know at the time was that he had scientifically rediscovered one of humanity's most sacred and ancient healing tools. The 528 Hz frequency is known in many ancient traditions as the miracle tone, or the frequency of love. It was one of the central notes of ancient Gregorian chants, used to induce trance states and spiritual connection. In ancient Egypt, priests used it in healing rituals inside the pyramids, believing that this specific sound had the power to repair the body and reconnect the soul to its divine source. Thoth, in the Hermetic texts, doesn't talk about hertz, but describes a sound that restores what was broken, a vibration capable of aligning the scattered fragments of the soul and body back to their original perfection. Tesla, with his oscillators and meters, was simply proving in scientific terms what mystics had known through direct experience. He had found a frequency that resonated with the very structure of life, a vibration that promoted order, health, and balance. It was a key to healing, not just of the body, but of life energy itself. However, in his most secret notebooks, the ones never meant for public eyes, Tesla left a chilling warning. He wrote that the 528 Hz frequency, as powerful as it was only an echo. It was a harmonic, a shadow of a much deeper and more fundamental frequency. He called it the matrix frequency, the original vibration from which all other frequencies, including 528 Hz, were merely derivatives. This primary frequency, he theorized, didn't just heal or harmonize, it created. He believed this matrix frequency was the vibration of the vacuum itself, of the zero-point field, the source of all matter and energy in the universe. And he realized that whoever could generate and control this frequency wouldn't just be able to heal, they'd be able to rewrite the laws of physics. They could manifest matter from nothing, transmute elements, bend space and time. It was the power of a god, and seeing humanity's greed and ignorance, he was overcome with a deep fear. He feared that if this power were revealed too soon, it wouldn't be used to liberate. but to destroy. And that realization led him to one of his most daring and terrifying experiments. The fear that the matrix frequency could be used as a weapon led Tesla to a shocking demonstration, a calculated act to prove a fundamental point about the power of vibration. He wanted to show the world that brute force was nothing compared to the precision of frequency. To do this, he didn't use one of his giant coils or massive generators. He used a small device, a metal box that fit in his pocket. It was a mechanical oscillator, a device he had invented to generate pure and constant vibrations. It was, in essence, a mechanical tuning fork. With this little device in his pocket, he walked to a building under construction in the heart of Manhattan. He found a massive steel beam supporting the structure, attached the small oscillator to it, and turned it on. At first, nothing happened. The device emitted only a low hum, almost imperceptible. But Tesla wasn't applying force. He was applying a frequency. He slowly adjusted the oscillator, searching for the exact note of that beam, its natural resonant frequency. And then he found it. The hum became a deep rumble, and the beam began to vibrate. Minutes later, what started as a subtle vibration turned into a violent tremor. The steel beam started to sway like it was made of rubber. The vibration spread throughout the entire building structure. The floor began to shake. The walls creaked. Workers on site panicked, shouting that it was an earthquake, abandoning their tools and running into the street. Chaos erupted. Calmly, Tesla turned off the small device, put it back in his pocket, and walked away, leaving behind an entire building on the brink of collapse, shaken by a force no one could see. That day, he proved the most important principle of his work: resonance. He demonstrated that a tiny, almost insignificant force, applied in the right place at the right rhythm, could exponentially amplify its power and bring down a massive structure. Resonance is the secret language of the universe, the invisible force that connects all things. Everything, from the smallest atom to the largest galaxy, has a natural frequency of vibration, a unique signature. If you can match that frequency, you create a direct channel of communication and energy transfer. Tesla, with his brilliant mind, took this conclusion to a terrifying level. If a building had a resonant frequency, then everything in the universe did too. A disease wasn't a biological failure. It was a dissonant frequency in the body. A negative thought wasn't just an idea. It was a vibration that attracted more of the same energy. An emotion was a resonance field that shaped the chemistry of the body and the perception of reality. And then, the scariest question of all came to his mind. What about the planet Earth itself? The idea that the human body was the ultimate antenna wasn't just a theory for Tesla. He proved it in the most dramatic way possible. Imagine a stage, a silent crowd holding their breath. In the center, Nikola Tesla sits calmly in a chair while his assistants activate one of his giant coils. Millions of volts of pure electricity begin to leap from the tower, filling the air with the smell of ozone and the sound of contained thunder. The lightning strikes Tesla's body, but he doesn't scream, doesn't flinch. He remains serene. In his hands, he holds glass bulbs, and they light up with a brilliant glow without being connected to any wires. The audience was witnessing what looked like a miracle, a man taming lightning. But Tesla explained it wasn't magic. It was physics. It wasn't about the amount of energy, but the frequency. Before the demonstration, he had spent weeks measuring the natural resonant frequency of his own body. He then tuned the electric current from the coil to vibrate exactly at that same frequency. The energy wasn't attacking him, it was flowing through him. His body wasn't a barrier, but a perfect conductor. In that moment, He proved that the human body isn't just flesh and bone. It's a biological circuit, a living antenna. But he didn't stop there. He wanted to see this energy, make it visible. Using special photographic plates and high-frequency electromagnetic fields, he developed a technique we now know as Kirlian photography. He was able to photograph the subtle energy field that surrounds all living beings, what mystics in every culture have always called the aura, and he saw with his own eyes that this field wasn't static. It constantly changed, directly responding to his thoughts and emotions. When he felt anger or frustration, the energy field turned red, chaotic, contracted. When he calmed down and felt peace or joy, the field expanded, becoming bright, harmonious, with tones of blue and violet. What the ancient sages described in spiritual texts, Tesla was measuring and documenting in his lab. Thoth, in the Hermetic teachings, said that initiates in the temples of Egypt learned to strengthen and control their light body, their personal energy field, to the point where they could use it for protection, healing, and even traveling to other dimensions of reality. Tesla believed this light body was real, and it was the human electromagnetic field. He realized that each person is a walking radio station, constantly broadcasting their emotional frequency to the universe and receiving frequencies from the environment around them. We are not separate from the world. We are in constant vibrational communication with it. And this realization led him to his boldest experiment. If his body was an antenna and the planet had a frequency, what would happen if he tuned his personal antenna to the planet's radio station? What would happen if he synced his own energy field with the Earth's pulse? He began practicing this during his meditative states. He aligned his breathing with the rhythm he had heard in Colorado. He visualized his energy field expanding and merging with the Earth's magnetic field. And then, something no machine had ever managed to do happened. He didn't just feel the planet's energy flowing through him, a sensation of vitality and indescribable power. He began receiving information. Vivid images would appear in his mind. Sounds and voices from past eras echoed in his consciousness. He was accessing memories that weren't his. By accessing the memory of the planet, Tesla finally saw the full picture. All his discoveries, all the seemingly disconnected pieces of the puzzle, came together in one overwhelming revelation. The whisper of the planet he heard in Colorado, the hidden mathematical code in the numbers 3, 6, and 9, the power of resonance that nearly brought down a building, the healing frequency of 528 Hz, and the human body as a cosmic antenna. They all pointed to the same fundamental truth. There weren't multiple secret frequencies. There was only one. He understood that all other frequencies, no matter how powerful, were just echoes, harmonics, like the different notes that come from a single guitar string. There was a primary frequency, a fundamental vibration from which the entire universe was composed. This was the matrix frequency he had been searching for, the fundamental note of the symphony of creation. And he realized it was the same frequency that the ancient masters tried to describe in so many ways. It was what Thoth called the Word, the primordial sound that gave birth to everything. It was the sound of the source that alchemy sought, and the greatest revelation of all was this: that frequency isn't a sound you hear with your ears. It's not an electromagnetic wave you can measure with a device. It's a vibration you feel. You feel it in the center of your chest, in the silent space of the heart. It's the vibration of pure consciousness itself, the state of being that exists before thought, before emotion, before identity. It's the feeling of being alive, here and now, without the noise of the mind. And Tesla realized that to generate this frequency, no machine was needed. The human body was already the perfect instrument. He discovered that by combining the elements he had studied, anyone could tune into this primary frequency. By aligning your breath in a calm and conscious rhythm, you calm the nervous system and prepare the body. By focusing the mind on a clear, singular intention, like he did in his visualizations, you direct the energy. And by cultivating an elevated emotion, like love or gratitude, you generate the coherent electromagnetic field that acts as the carrier wave. The combination of these three elements, guided by the sacred math of 3, 6, and 9, turns the body into a powerful transmitter of the matrix frequency. And this is where the true secret of energy manipulation is finally revealed. It's not about forcing the universe to do what you want. It's not about sending power outward like an attack. It's the opposite. It's about becoming a point of resonance. It's about clearing your own internal signal, your own vibration, until it becomes so pure, so clear, and so coherent that the chaotic energy of the universe around you starts to organize itself around you. You don't force reality to change. You become a new center of vibrational gravity, and reality, by the law of resonance, starts to mirror your internal state. Just like Tesla's little oscillator, with its pure frequency, was able to shake an entire building, your personal vibration, when tuned to the matrix frequency, can restructure your reality. It can influence your health, attract opportunities, dissolve obstacles, and manifest experiences that are in harmony with your new state of being. Thoth's frequency isn't a tool you use. It's a state of consciousness you become. You don't find it in an ancient text or in a secret lab. You find it in the silence within yourself. The understanding that the body was the perfect antenna and that the matrix frequency was a state of being, not an external signal, led Tesla to a logical and revolutionary conclusion. If reality responds to internal vibration, then the true battlefield and playground of creation isn't in the physical world, but in the only place where vibration can be controlled with absolute precision: the human mind. He realized that his most brilliant inventions, the ones that seemed to appear out of nowhere, were never born on a workbench full of wires and tools. They were born in the stillness of his own consciousness, in the silent lab of his mind. He described this process with striking clarity, calling it creative visualization. Before even drawing a single diagram or ordering a part, he would build the entire invention in his imagination. He didn't just see a vague image. He experienced it. He assembled every screw, connected every wire, felt the texture of the materials, all in his mind. Then he would turn the machine on in his mental theater, observe its operation for weeks, identify design flaws, overheating points, inefficiencies. He would correct, redesign, and test again, all without spending a penny or lifting a finger. When he finally went down to his workshop, the physical work was merely a formality, a simple translation of something that already existed, already perfectly functional, on the vibrational plane of the mind. He wasn't inventing. He was materializing. He was downloading a blueprint from the mental field to the physical field. This discovery made him understand that the mind isn't just a processor of thoughts, a place to store memories and worries. The mind is a vibrational lab, a womb for creation. Every clear mental image, sustained and charged with the energy of emotion, creates a specific resonance field, an energetic mold in the universe. This wasn't positive thinking or vague optimism. It was vibrational engineering. It was the practical application of one of the oldest and most secret principles of Hermetic knowledge. In the traditions of Thoth, this is known as the principle of mentalism, which states, all is mind. The universe is mental. This means that everything that exists in the physical world was first a thought. Thoth taught that the visible universe, is only a reflection of the invisible, and that the ability to see with the inner eye, focused imagination, was the first and most crucial step to real magic, real creation. Tesla, the scientist, had come to the same conclusion as the ancient mystics. He understood that creating a mental image isn't fantasizing, it's tuning a frequency. When you visualize something with clarity and emotion, you are literally broadcasting the vibrational signature of that reality. You're becoming a beacon for that experience, and by the law of resonance, the universe starts to conspire to bring the physical components that match your transmission. You're not chasing reality, you're drawing it into your energy field, into your now. But it was in one of those deep and expanded visualization states that Tesla saw something that deeply disturbed him. He wasn't trying to invent anything. He was simply in a state of silent receptivity when an image formed in his mind with terrifying clarity. He saw a tower, a gigantic tower, much more complex and advanced than anything he had ever designed. It pulsed with an energy he recognized, but its function was different. This tower didn't just transmit energy to light up homes, it transmitted information, thoughts, emotions, directly into people's minds. He couldn't tell if it was a vision of a possible future, a warning about where his own technology could go in the wrong hands, or if it was something much older. It could have been a memory, an echo from the past, accessed through the connection he had established with the planet's information field. Was it a technology of liberation or of total control? This ambiguous vision haunted him, filling him with a sense of urgency and responsibility. He felt he needed to act, that he had to build his own tower, but with a different purpose, a purpose that could protect humanity, not enslave it. Haunted by the vision of that mind control tower, Tesla felt time was running out. He needed to present the world with an alternative, a technology that would unite humanity instead of dividing it, that would free it instead of controlling it. With this mission burning in his soul, he dedicated every ounce of his energy, every penny he could raise, to his grandest and most misunderstood project, the Wardencliffe Tower. To the public, and more importantly, to his investors like magnate J.P. Morgan, the tower was pitched as a global wireless communication system. The promise was revolutionary, to send messages, images, and even news instantly to anywhere on the planet. But that was just the cover, the story he told to secure funding. The real purpose of the Wardencliffe Tower was infinitely more radical and dangerous to the established order. The tower wasn't just designed to transmit information. It was designed to connect with the Earth itself. It was the physical manifestation of everything he had learned. The tower would function like a giant tuning fork, calibrated to vibrate at the same resonant frequency as the planet, the same pulse he had heard years earlier in the Colorado mountains. He wasn't going to generate energy. He was going to connect to an infinite source. By resonating with the Earth's energy field, the tower could harvest the unlimited energy that already exists in the ionosphere and the ground itself. It was the planet's energy, clean, constant, and inexhaustible. And the second part of the plan was even bolder. He would use the Earth itself as a conductor to transmit this energy, wirelessly, to any point on the globe. Anyone, anywhere, with a simple receiver, could have access to an unlimited amount of energy. It would mean the end of darkness, the end of energy poverty, the end of pollution caused by burning fossil fuels. Imagine a world where energy is as free and abundant as the air we breathe. A world where factories could run with no energy costs, where homes in remote villages would have light and heat, where transportation wouldn't depend on oil. It would be a quantum leap for human civilization, an era of prosperity and creativity like nothing before. It would mean the end of the struggle for resources, the root cause of so many wars and conflicts. Free energy wasn't just a technological innovation. It was a promise of peace and unification for humanity. But the men who financed Tesla weren't dreamers. They were businessmen, J. P. Morgan and the other investors, whose fortunes were built on controlling coal, oil, and copper, quickly realized the true implication of Tesla's project. The question that echoed through their boardrooms was simple and terrifying to them. How do you put a meter on something that's free? How do you charge for energy that's everywhere, accessible to everyone? Free energy didn't just mean the collapse of their industries. It meant the collapse of their power. Free energy meant a shift of power from corporations and governments into the hands of the people. A population with access to unlimited energy is a population that can't be easily controlled, that can't be kept in dependence. When J. P. Morgan finally understood that Tesla's ultimate goal wasn't just to send wireless telegrams, but to free humanity from energy scarcity, the axe fell. All funding was abruptly cut. The official excuse was lack of commercial viability, but the real reason was fear. Fear of losing control. The Wardencliffe Tower, Tesla's dream of a better world, was left unfinished. The giant metal skeleton stood in Long Island as a monument to greed and human short-sightedness. With no funding, Tesla went bankrupt. The tower was eventually sold for scrap and demolished, piece by piece. The dream of free energy was destroyed, buried beneath the interests of those who profit from scarcity. Defeated and humiliated, Tesla watched his greatest project turn to dust. But the defeat didn't erase the knowledge he had gained. It only forced him to shift focus from the macro to the micro. With the dream of powering the world reduced to a pile of scrap metal, a lesser man would have given up. But Tesla wasn't an ordinary man. The pain of defeat forced him to turn his attention inward, to a smaller, but perhaps even deeper scale. If he couldn't energize the planet, maybe he could energize the individual. If he couldn't cure society of scarcity, maybe he could heal the human being of illness. He took all his knowledge about frequencies, resonance, and the human energy field, and began designing devices that could directly influence biology and consciousness. Accounts from his diaries and people close to him speak of a series of inventions that sound like science fiction, but were based on solid principles. One of these devices was known as the healing oscillator. It was a machine that could be tuned to the specific vibrational frequency of a healthy organ. The theory was simple. A disease is a dissonance, a wrong note in the body. By exposing a sick organ to its original healthy frequency, the oscillator would act like a tuning fork, reminding the cells of their correct vibration and stimulating the body to heal itself through resonance. Another of his projects was the brain tuner. This device didn't use sound, but pulsed electromagnetic waves at extremely low frequencies, the same frequencies the human brain produces in different states of consciousness. By tuning the device to alpha waves, for example, it could induce a state of calm and deep meditation within minutes. By tuning it to beta waves, it could increase focus and concentration, making the mind sharp and alert. It was a way to guide consciousness to the desired state, without drugs or years of mental training. These weren't black magic machines or pseudoscience. They were direct and logical applications of the science of resonance, the same science he used to shake a building. If everything in the universe has a frequency, then health does too. Disease is simply a deviation from that harmonic frequency. Tesla's tools didn't heal in the traditional sense. They didn't attack the symptom. They restored harmony. They reminded the body of its own innate perfection, providing the correct vibrational pattern so the system could rebalance itself on its own. Once again, Tesla was scientifically rediscovering what esoteric traditions had known for centuries. In Hermetic alchemy, it is taught that all physical illness begins as a disturbance in the energy field, a dissonance in the light body. Thoth, in his descriptions of the healing temples of Atlantis, spoke of using faceted crystals and harmonic chants to rebalance the patient's energy field, allowing the physical body to heal naturally. Tesla's machines were the modern, technological version of those same ancient principles, using electricity instead of crystals. But as he witnessed the powerful effects of his creations, a shadow began to grow in his mind. He saw how a frequency could relieve anxiety and bring peace, but he also realized that the same machine, in the wrong hands, could be used to impose apathy on a population, to eliminate the will to resist. He saw how a frequency could increase focus and mental clarity, but he also understood it could be used to create perfectly focused, obedient soldiers. Without moral questioning, the power to heal was undeniably also the power to control. The same knife that cuts bread can be used to take a life. The same technology that could free humanity from pain and illness could become the most effective tool of control ever created. This ethical dilemma haunted him. He found himself standing at the edge of a power that humanity, in its current state of consciousness, simply wasn't ready to wield. The ghost of the mind control tower he had seen in his vision came back with full force. And the fear of what might happen if this technology fell into the wrong hands led him to make a drastic decision, one that would change the course of history. Terrified. That's the only word to describe Tesla's state of mind as he stared into the abyss that his own inventions had opened. He, who dreamed of liberating humanity, had created the tools for its ultimate enslavement. The awareness of this paradox led him to a decision that went against his very nature as an inventor and scientist. He decided that certain truths were too dangerous to be revealed. He began, systematically, to hide his most important discoveries, to erase his tracks, to protect the world from his own genius. But he didn't destroy his work. Destroying knowledge would be a crime against the future, against the generations who might one day be ready. Instead, he chose to encode it. He abandoned the clear, direct language of science and began recording his most advanced projects in a complex, multifaceted cipher. He blended advanced mathematics with musical symbolism, sacred geometry with mystical symbols he had studied all his life. He was creating a language that could only be understood by someone who walked the same path he had, a vibrational cipher. And this is where we finally return to the beginning of our story, to the mysterious violet ink notebook found in his hotel room after his death. That notebook wasn't a diary of his last lonely days. It wasn't a record of past inventions. It was the master key. It was the vault where he stored his most secret project, his most powerful and therefore most dangerous invention. Hidden within the pages of that notebook, beneath layers of seemingly disconnected symbols and equations, was the blueprint for a device he called the consciousness amplifier. It wasn't a healing machine or a brain tuner. It was something of a completely different magnitude. It was a device designed to interact directly with the user's field of consciousness and amplify it exponentially. A machine that didn't just read thoughts with clarity, but could project them with enough force and focus to directly influence reality. It would allow telepathic communication, not as a trick, but as a clear, stable transmission. And most shocking of all, it would accelerate the process of manifestation, dramatically shortening the time between mental visualization and its realization in the physical world. It was the technological materialization of the Hermetic principle of mental generation. It was a tool that would transform an ordinary human being into a conscious co-creator of reality, with powers once attributed only to the gods. In the hands of a person with a pure heart and an aligned mind, it would be the key to creating paradise on earth. But in the hands of someone driven by ego, greed, or fear, it would be the most devastating weapon ever conceived, capable of manipulating reality and the minds of others on an unprecedented scale. Aware of this, Tesla sealed the notebook with that enigmatic clasp, one that couldn't be opened by force, but only by resonance. And he hid it in the most genius way possible, in plain sight, among piles of other documents that would be considered more important. He knew that only someone who had already walked the inner path, who already understood the principles of vibration, resonance, and consciousness, would be able to see the notebook for what it really was. Only an initiate, as Thoth would say, someone who already possessed the internal vibrational key, would be able to decode the symbols and understand the true purpose of that technology. The notebook was a test, not a test of intelligence, but a test of consciousness. It would only reveal its secrets to someone who no longer needed it, to someone who had already developed the power within themselves. It was the perfect protection. But in hiding his greatest project, Tesla also revealed a clue about the origin of his deepest knowledge. The need to create such a complex cipher implied that he was protecting something that wasn't entirely his. He was guarding a legacy, a knowledge he had received. And the source of that knowledge was the very memory of the planet itself. Tesla's decision to encode his most important work was an act of reverence. He understood that he wasn't the original author of many of those ideas, but rather a channel, a decoder. By syncing his energy field with that of the Earth, he didn't just access energy. He tapped into an unlimited source of information, opening a direct line to the planet's vast data library. He described receiving visions with a clarity that ordinary imagination couldn't produce, experiencing events from the past as if he were there. He wasn't reading history. He was directly accessing what mystical traditions call the Akashic records. Mystics describe these records as a non-physical information field where every thought, emotion, and event is forever recorded. It's a living vibrational field, a concept modern science is beginning to explore with theories like the zero-point field. Thoth, the Egyptian scribe, referred to this knowledge as the library of Amenti, accessible not physically, but through a state of consciousness. Tesla, through his resonance experiments, stumbled upon the scientific key to that library. He realized the Earth was a cosmic hard drive, and human consciousness, the reading interface. The key to reading that drive was resonance. He understood that every event has a unique vibrational signature. By tuning his consciousness with a specific intention, he could pull information from that vibrational address, like tuning a radio. That's how he saw the mind-control tower that haunted him, realizing it wasn't a premonition, but a vivid memory from the past. He accessed the record of an ancient civilization, perhaps Atlantis, that had also discovered the power of frequency and faced the same choice: liberation or control. The vision was a warning, an echo through time showing the fate of those who made the wrong choice. This understanding gave Tesla a new perspective on history. He realized we weren't the first to walk this path, that the cycle of discovery, power, and destruction had happened before. He felt like a guardian of a dangerous secret that could lead to a massive evolutionary leap or a repeat of catastrophe. This realization led him to explore the final frontier, the very nature of time. In his final years, the world saw Tesla as a lonely figure, but inside his hotel room, his deepest experiments continued, now entirely within his own mind. Having mastered resonance and visualization, he began to explore the nature of time, applying the sacred sequence 3, 6, and 9 to its progression. He saw time not as a line, but as a wave, with peaks and valleys, recognizing energetic cycles that influence collective consciousness. He identified windows of opportunity in the future, moments of high planetary frequency when great leaps in awareness were likely. In one of these explorations, he saw his own death. But not as a tragic event. He saw it with the clarity of an engineer, seeing the exact date and time. He understood it as a transition point, one he could orchestrate himself. His death wouldn't be an accident, but his final act of vibrational engineering. He realized he could choose the moment of his departure to coincide with one of those planetary energy peaks. His hypothesis was that by releasing his consciousness at the precise moment of a high-frequency pulse, he could imprint his essence into the planet's energy field permanently. He wouldn't die in the conventional sense. He would transform from a physical inventor into a vibrational influence, a node of information and intention within planetary consciousness. He would become a frequency of innovation and freedom, accessible to anyone who tuned into that ideal in the future. His final experiment wasn't with electricity, but with the immortality of consciousness, an act of faith in the physics of the soul. He left as an explorer, leaving his mind as a beacon. And this final choice brings us to the central point of this entire journey, to a truth that pulses within each of us. And so, the circle completes. Tesla's secret and Thoth's knowledge are not a lost technology. The notebook, the tower, the machines, they were all just fingers pointing to the moon. They were metaphors for the true instrument. The great revelation is that you already have everything you need. The matrix frequency that Tesla searched for is the natural vibration of your own consciousness when it's free from noise. It's your original state, the frequency you emit when you're in a state of peace, love, or gratitude. It's the silence behind your thoughts. The problem is, we live in dissonance, immersed in the noise of doubt, fear, and stress that drowns out our original signal. We believe we are that noise, but that's the greatest illusion. The manipulation of energy begins with mastering your inner state. Using the tools Tesla rediscovered, you can change your frequency. Conscious breathing anchors you in the present. Focused visualization gives direction to your energy. And elevated emotion, like gratitude, is the most powerful key. Feelings aren't just chemistry, they're electromagnetic fields that you emit. By deliberately generating an elevated emotion, you broadcast a coherent signal to the universe, saying with energy, "This is the reality I choose now." You naturally tune into the matrix frequency. You stop being a victim and become the conductor of your energy symphony. The external reality, by the law of resonance, begins to reorganize to match your new transmission. You don't change the world. You change yourself, and the world changes as a reflection. Thoth's frequency belongs to you. Tesla's legacy is the map to the treasure that has always been within us. So, how do you actually do this? The secret is simple, and you can start now. The process is based on 3 pillars. First, tune your body. Sit in silence for 3 minutes, close your eyes, and just shift your attention inward. Feel the subtle vibration, the beat of your heart, the flow of air. Your body is an orchestra. Just listen to the music. Second, tune your mind. Think of something you deeply desire, but instead of seeing it as something missing, build the scene in your mind as if it's a memory, something that already happened. See the details, hear the sounds, and most importantly, feel the emotion of already having it. Hold that scene and that feeling for 60 seconds. Third, tune your energy. Let go of the image and focus only on the feeling of gratitude, not for the thing you imagined, but for the life pulsing in you right now. Gratitude for the air, for your beating heart, for your own awareness. Gratitude is the emotional signature of the matrix frequency, the state that tells the universe everything is already perfect. Hold that feeling for 90 seconds. By doing this, you're performing an act of vibrational engineering. You become a beacon, aligning yourself with the energy of creation. Reality will have no choice but to resonate with your new state. This is the most powerful secret. Energy isn't manipulated. It's seduced by your frequency. Your journey to becoming the master of your reality starts now. By practicing this simple sequence, you're doing far more than a relaxation exercise. You're performing an act of vibrational engineering. You're not asking anything from the universe. You're becoming a beacon, a transmitter of a clear and coherent signal. You're consciously aligning with the same energy Tesla used to dream of a world filled with light. You're becoming the frequency you want to attract. And when you do that, the reality around you, by a fundamental law of the universe, will have no choice but to resonate with your new state of being. This is the most powerful secret of all. Energy isn't something you manipulate with brute force. Energy is something you seduce with your own frequency. You don't chase the butterfly, you build a garden, and the butterfly comes to you. Your inner state is your garden. By cultivating it with presence, intention, and gratitude, you become a magnet for the experiences that are in harmony with your new vibration. Your journey to becoming the master of your reality doesn't start tomorrow, or after you learn one more thing. It starts now, in your next breath. If you made it this far, I want you to leave a comment. Tesla's frequency will never be silenced. I want to know who really followed this journey to the end. And if you'd like to support the channel more directly, there's a special link in the pinned comment where you can contribute. Any help, no matter how small, means a lot to me and to the growth of the channel, so I can keep spreading stories and content like this. But just the fact that you stayed until the end already helps more than you know. And you can also share this video with someone you think would be intrigued by this mystery. And don't leave yet. I've picked out a special video for you to click on the screen now and keep going with me in this investigation. I'll see you there. Suggested call to action for on-screen final slide. Ready to go even deeper? Tap here and let's unlock the next layer together.